This week's channeled message from the angels is an exciting one about where we're headed, about some of the amazing things on the horizon for humanity. So, welcome back to my channel, you guys. I am so grateful that you're here with me. Thank you so much for joining. For those of you who are new, my name is Ann Tucker. I'm a trance channel. I channel from the angelic realm. I do that by raising my awareness as high as I can go. I go a little higher, I connect, and then the information, messages, and healing come through. And I share it here with you guys on YouTube. So this week's message came from a retreat that I held this past weekend. And this was one of the messages the angels came through, and I never know what they're going to talk about. And this time they got very candid and gave us a lot of details about some very cool things. So I really felt compelled to share it here with you guys. So I know you guys are going to love the message. And they do get into, like I said, some more of the details about things. So I'm just going to go ahead and dive right in. So just a moment. And you guys notice I am not at home. I'm on the road. I'm out helping my daughter move into it. She just moved to a new city. So I'm here helping her first big job in the world. So it's an exciting time. So here, let me go ahead and pull up the message. All right. So the first thing I wanted to share with you guys that is so cool is, and I just thought this was with permission from Susan, who this message was for Susan. So this was part of her last session as part of the Golden Circle, which is a program I no longer offer. You guys know I'm only working with groups at this point, with doing these larger healing programs, which is currently part of what my mission is. But this was her final session as part of that last piece of work we did together. And I wanted to share it with you guys because how many times, I don't know if any of you have ever been out and wondered or thought about the presence of the angels and if they were really around you or not. You know, maybe you even spoken to them or thought you felt them around you. And so this was a situation just like that for Susan. And I wanted to share with you because I think it's totally inspiring. So apparently earlier on this day that we had this session, Susan had been out by herself on a walk, and she had seen it fall. It was fall. She saw a leaf come down, and she thought to herself, that's kind of like the angels, how it's floating down and seeing the leaf fall. And it made her think of the angels. And she was like, I wonder if that's what the angels are like, or if that's the angels. And as she thought that, then a gust of wind came and blew a whole bunch of leaves came down, and they all rained down on top of her. And she felt like that was the angels. She had that feeling inside, like, oh, I thought of them, and then this happened, and it was like they heard me. So later that day, and she hadn't told me anything about this. Later that day, we're in the session, and she asks the angels, because it was on her mind. She said, will there ever come a time when I can see you? And the angels replied, we are in presence with you always. You know this. We made ourselves apparent in the dancing leaves of your experience. This was us. You have already seen us. And Susan says, yes. And the angel said, yes, we enjoyed that. We enjoy. We will do it again. We will do it again in playful remembrance of our conversation. And you will laugh aloud, and we will celebrate and make rain on you. And Susan says, thank you. And the angels say, you are welcome, Susan. We are funny in how we make rain on you. So they do. The angels actually love to laugh, and they have a great sense of humor. But I just loved, and I didn't know during the session, I have a hard time tracking what's being said when I'm channeling. But so afterwards, we talked about this, and she told me about what happened, how that just that day, the angels were speaking to something that had actually happened. And I loved it. I absolutely love this beautiful confirmation that came through for her that yes, they are present, and they're present with all of us, right? And that she thought about them, and they showed up, and she was right. She thought she felt them, and she really did. And here, and this beautiful confirmation in the message, they told her, yep, that was us. We were there. And they, the way they said, they rained down on her. How cool is that? So anyways, I loved that little bit of confirmation that came through for her. And I thought we could all relate to it. So I wanted to share it with you too. So, all right. So the rest of the message today that I was telling you about came from the retreat this past weekend. And like I said, I never know what's going to come through in retreat. So this particular portion, this is a segment of a channeling. So I'm just going to go ahead and dig in, and then I'll read it through to you, and then we can talk a little bit about it afterwards. So here's what they say. They say, there is the sense of all things moving from here in a particular direction, and fear among some does percolate. And we say, we summon from you your attention, willingly given, to focus upon not what comes next, but what is beginning. We ask for the bounds of what is remaining in this world to feel gentle, to feel as something that envelops you in loving endeavor. Feel within yourself, within your soul, as you herald the times to come, that you are made for the memory of this experience. You are made for the purpose of belonging and having the experience of upheaval and reacclimation, of claiming this world again in the new time frame and making it home, of making within it a settling of humanity where it comes to know itself more formed, more full. The inner knowing that develops between you and among you is life-affirming. To find within the time frames of what will be known, there is not the same longing that we have spoken of. There is not the absence of friendship, the drawing close of heart form. There is instead the desire to continue between and among you a friendship formed through trouble, through anxiety, through all that does signify great change in your environment, but instills within you the desire to fight against what is thought of as hardship and to draw toward one another and rekindle the light and fire of belonging. It is a time of truth among you. It is a time of bereavement for many, but this does inspire humanity to grow and unfold one another, to draw into you the friendship of all nations, to make in and among the many you herald as distant, true friends. There is in this time information that cannot be avoided, and you are curious as to when and how you shall experience it. You are furious we have not said it, and we say to yourselves in calming voice, in loving connection, that there is not the predeterminate timing to which all must orchestrate, but it is as it unfolds, and in its unfoldment all will develop. There is this acute root to understanding this terminology. How can we claim this knowing, having seen it, and not have in its grounding a concept of when it is happening? And we say that this space of knowledge occurs in rapidity, and it reveals itself piece by piece, overlapping. And there are still potential outcomes by which the occurrence is manipulated and transferred. But having seen it, all outcomes reveal this, that the opportunity will reveal itself. It is coming. It arrives in all instantiations of time that we see. There is not an outcome that reveals itself without this occurrence. Thus, we are saying that it is coming, that it is happening, that we see this soon on the horizon. The formation of timing ripples incessantly. It creates within itself many disturbances, and these overlap and create and unfurl as they are willing. And thus we see the waves of time coming, but all carry this outcome and great growth for humanity. In the times coming, what will it be to belong to humanity? What will it be to be alive on this earth? What will be the life laid out before you? And we say, do not enshroud yourself against this. Do not fear what opportunities will lay. In the acceptance of change and its passing, you will find for yourself that all is as it was in some ways, that there will be fragments of life that are much undisturbed, and it will feel as though life continues to a certain tune and song of memory. But then become aware that the capacity for Earth to continue as it was, that the capacity of life to expand as it has been, is disjointed and does not continue. That there will be beyond the borders of your own experience the potential for great undoing, and these create within them opportunities for uprising, disjointed efforting. There will be among and within humanity a great unraveling, but this happens in separateness here and there. There are pockets, there are places among this great earth that are as yet untouched by these experiences, and there are some places which are knowing only what is past based on what is heard. There is a great movement of peoples. There is the transfer of wealth between nations, the sharing of what is unearthed. There is the desire to maintain for the purpose of living and being among all peoples. A shifting of purpose and focus emerges. Powerful structures which emerged in this past decades find themselves uprooted and unable to continue. But not all such instantiations are wounded. Some find themselves truer in their purpose and more able to experience growth in a time of unfurling. Thus, the world takes hold a new capacity. There is in this time frame an expansion of horizons and borders beyond this world. The expansion of travel, new ways of being aloft, and outlying reaches become closer. And this expands yourselves exponentially. There is a great peace among nations, dissolving borders. There is the connection between peoples, and the enablement of this capacity opens the heavens to all races of beings. And there comes to yourselves great aid and guardianship. In and amongst ourselves who are angels, you become perceptive to us. You become sensitive to our presence. Not all will see us, but some will. Not all will conceive of our presence, but many shall have the experience. And this endowment of grace shifts them purposefully into a direction of communal understanding that we are of this place and of yourselves. And there exists within the hearts of many a greater pull to greater understanding. And you will find yourselves replete with the many who desire greater depth and greater tutelage, who are in need of service from yourselves, and the many who have come to be of service in this time. These times you are undertaking have been waylaid, shortened, and the fulfillment of these experiences must be concentrated. There is amongst us who are engaged in the design and fulfillment of your fruition a commitment to the resolution of these earthly purges. We are certain it will absorb humanity of many pressures of what has been difficult, hardship, suffering, where there has been the expansion of negativity and frustration, and much dialogue has occurred between the darkness and the lost souls of your many races. In the great purge, all that has been stolen from yourselves will be returned again, and this we celebrate. We say that the aspects of life that are tumultuous, that you experience through the frustration of the orchestration of what you desire, a great shifting occurs that is positive. You will find yourselves in a liquefied realm of objects where all things are transmutable, and that which has been difficult is moldable by you. There is the formation of reality, which is an undertaking you can handle differently. The formation of life stems from you unguarded, and you find your heart the directive. It becomes a time of greater folly and fruition, more fun for the having, greater ease in life, a greater capacity for joy, a release of beliefs that have been durable and limiting. It is a time and space in which you feel yourselves delivered from the realm of misunderstanding, misconstrued action, and underdeveloped senses. And in the new space of friendship between humans and all peoples, you become that self you envisioned before coming. You become that self who rises to an experience of life that feels like ease and purpose, married into one expression. You become that self who rises to the tide of need, who dances in the expression of their own beliefs, who stands ashore in the waves of spirit and holds within them the light of the divine. We speak to this now in reassurance, in understanding that the dialogue we are having cannot supplant the fear. We have the knowing that to be human is to feel decomposed at the prospect of enormous change and fragmentation. But we say that to trust in self and other, to trust in humanity, is what is your purpose. In what you have felt, in what is your purpose, in what you have felt, in what you have known. And to be aware that though you have felt the great ripples of these experiences building around yourselves, though you have known the torrent of many peoples occurring, even as the torment of many peoples occurring, even as we are speaking, that you are yet held in a pose of relaxation and enjoyment. Through this process and undertaking to lift humanity from its depths of confusion to the lofty precipice of its evolution, we must have suffering. And for this we are sorry. And through this process, our guardianship is promised. Your safety in our compassion is held as a trusted contract. We provide for yourselves a suggestion in the conveyance of your wishes for what shall occur. We speak to this most poignantly, to speak to yourself often and only of the desire for the evolution of humanity. To speak to yourself only and often of the sense of yourself as part of this great change. To speak to yourself only and often that you will be living in a time of great love and prosperity. And this is all, and to wish for nothing more. For what is to be expected cannot conform to your knowing, and your concern bedevils all you create. Thus, stand confronted with reality and receive what is, and be of the perspective that you live in grace and graceful opportunity, and see in all things the blessings for your race, your peoples, yourself, your family. See the blessings in all things arriving. All right. And I know that was a lot, and that message goes on. But that's the main chunk. They go into an experience after that, which was beautiful. But this is the piece I felt was going to be super interesting to you guys. So let's go ahead and break it down, and we'll go through the different sections. So, and they're saying, I'm going to just kind of go, because I feel like this message is more clear in some ways, but I'm going to go through it. They say there is a sense of all things moving. They speak in the beginning about our fear, right? That there's a feeling that fear does among some, does percolate. And we say, and we summon you, your attention willingly given to focus upon not what comes next, but what is beginning. So this is really what the message is about, is they're really trying to take our focus off of the challenging times that we have to get through and to focus on the blessings and the amazing things that we're headed into. And we know that everything, like the real transformation that we're going through, like the evolution that we're going through, that we're not going to see all of it, right? The humanity will continue to evolve, but that we will see some amazing things in our lifetime. We will see some massive transformation, massive shift in our lifetime. They've talked about that there is this gradual process that we're going through, gradual change that we see year by year, really month by month, as things are shifting and changing. And yes, we're in this period of massive polarity and more chaos than ever. And that is the muck we have to pass through. But we're also seeing the shifting of consciousness as we speak. We're seeing the things that have been buried, the things that were really needed to come to the surface. We're seeing those things come to the surface now. So they've talked about the great flash of light, right? These solar energies that are coming that bring more light to the planet. They've said that there is one big flash of light in particular that we will look back on and say that was the moment that shifted everything. So there will be moments of big shift. There's going to sort of be this gradual, and then these sort of peak moments as well is kind of what we're moving through. But what they want us to see is, yep, we are the ones that are going to be moving through the place where things unravel. That's going to be our experience in this life, but that we get through it. And through the process of getting through it, they're saying that it's not going to be all bad, that it's not like it's going to be this period of like horrible. Yes, it will be stressful. And yes, it will be a lot of change, and it will be very hard, but it will also be beautiful. And just like life, right? That even in the darkest moments, you still find things that are amazing and things that are beautiful, that it's always a mixed bag. And then we get through it. And that they say that the experience will draw us closer. The experience changes humanity. It brings us into a state of oneness. And then we're helped by these flashes of light, right? So all of it is working towards moving us to a new state of being. And then we get through it. And then we have some of these amazing things that happen. So, and let's talk through it now as we go and have them describe it. So they say, the next paragraph, they say, we ask for the bounds of what is remaining in this world to feel gentle, right? As something that envelops you in loving endeavor. So really to see these changes as moving us forward towards something, not as just chaos for the sake of chaos or violence for the sake of violence, but as something that is taking us somewhere good, right? In the long run. to feel within yourself, within your soul, that as you herald the times to come, that you are made for the memory of this experience, right? That we're meant to be here to experience this and to hold the memory of it and to process it, right? And to share that learning with the rest of humanity, that, you know, with the greater good, with the collective, that you are made for the purpose of belonging and having the experience of upheaval and reacclimation, of claiming this world again in the new time frame and making it home, of making within it a settling for humanity where it comes to know itself more formed, more full. So in other words, we are meant to move through the transformation. That's what this is all about, to go through the transformation with humanity, right? It's the upheaval and reacclimation, claiming the world again. That's what we're doing, right? The inner knowing that develops between you, among you, is life affirming. So this is the inner knowing. So between us, this is like the telepathy that they keep talking about, that we will have this sense of knowing each other and knowing each other's feelings, that it will be much easier for us to connect. It's like that deep empathy, that to be empathic. Imagine if that's just the state of everyone, right? That we all feel each other's feelings. So this is what they're talking about here. The knowing, inner knowing that develops between and among you, to find within the time frames of what will be known, there is not the same longing that we have spoken of, meaning the longing, the loneliness, which is really the plague of humanity at this point, is loneliness, that we won't have that longing anymore because we will feel this deep sense of connection to one another. There is not the absence of friendship, the drawing close of the heart form. So that there's not the sense of where everyone is so separated. We're moving into unity. There is instead the desire to continue between and among you, a friendship formed. And they're saying here, yeah, this comes as a result of, right, formed through trouble, through anxiety, through all that does signify great change in your environment, but instills within you the desire to fight against what is thought of as hardship and to draw toward one another and rekindle the light and fire of belonging. So this process we're going through, the difficulties are part of what brings us into unity. It is a time of truth among you, a time of bereavement for many. So they're acknowledging that there will be a lot of people leaving the planet. And they've talked about that, and they say, but this does inspire humanity to grow and to unfold one another, to draw into you the friendship of all nations, to make in and among the many you herald as distant, true friends. So this is really like the end of war, right? They're talking about world peace, that as a result of all this process, we get to a space of world peace. So this is critical in terms of what comes next in the message, that and they say there is in this time of formation that cannot be there. There is in this time information that cannot be avoided, and you are curious as to when and how you shall experience. And you are furious we have not said it. So they're acknowledging that they haven't given us a specific time frame for when all of these events are going to happen. And they say, and we say to yourselves in calming voice and loving connection, that there is not the predeterminate timing to which all must orchestrate, but it is as it unfolds. And this is it makes sense that we have free will, that there are many things operating here on the earth plane, right? That free will is part of it. And there's multiple things that have to come together. So it's not like there's a specific that we're locked into a particular way that this is happening. They're saying, but it is as it unfolds, and in its unfoldment, all will develop. There is this acute root to understanding this terminology. How can we claim this knowing to have seen it and not have in its grounding a concept of when it is happening? So how can they say they've seen it already happen and not know when it happened? That's the question. And we say that this space of knowledge occurs in rapidity, and it reveals itself piece by piece, overlapping. And there are still potential outcomes by which the occurrence is manipulated and transferred. But having seen it, all outcomes reveal this, that the opportunity will reveal itself. It is coming. So it's almost like, we talk about timelines, and they're saying all these different timelines are overlapping, that they are still manipulatable, that there's still different ways, different pieces of this that could show up in different ways. But they say that all outcomes reveal this. So in other words, all paths lead to the same destination. It's just that which path we end up on is not, there could still be changes in terms of which path, but they are all leading to the same outcome. They say it arrives in all instantiations of time that we see. It is not an outcome that reveals itself without this occurrence. Thus, we are saying that it is coming, that it is happening. We see this soon on the horizon, The formation of timing ripples incessantly. It creates within itself many disturbances, and these overlap and create and unfurl as they are willing. So this is a really interesting description of how they see time and how they see things coming together. So, and angels we know have, I like to think of their vision, like when you see pictures of like what a bee sees, where they have, or a fly, like how they have this, like their eye is like five, like 50 eyes. Like I think the angels are kind of like that, where they see a lot of different things. They're not limited. They're not linear like we are. We see things one time, we see things one thing at a time. Even our brain, we can't focus on more things, more than one thing at once. And angels are not like that. They see all time, all at the same time. So their perception is really, really different. And they say here, I think it's just an interesting, the formation of timing ripples incessantly. So I love that visual of like dropping a pebble in water and seeing it ripple, and then imagine lots of pebbles being dropped in the water and all those ripples coming together and bumping into one another, right? And what is the final picture? Well, it's the combination. It's like all these ripples impact and change each other. So yeah, so what is the final wave? Well, it depends on how all these ripples unfurl, right? A forming of timing ripples incessantly. It creates within itself many disturbances, and these overlap and create and unfurl as they are willing. So they reference here as they are willing, reference again to free will, right? And thus we see the waves of time coming, but all carry this outcome and great growth for humanity. So, and I think they're speaking here to many of the events they've talked about, as well as the main focus of this whole message, which is the great growth for humanity. So I think as they're talking about what events, what specific events, I think it's they've talked about, so many of the things they've talked about have happened already, but there's still several that haven't. So the specific ones that haven't come are the separation of the United States, into not one cohesive country anymore. The Earth rift is a really big one that hasn't come yet. So there's a few things still on the docket that we haven't seen. So, but the most recent thing that occurred is the banking crisis, the U.S. losing its political hegemony anyways, a lot of these things that have already occurred or in the process of occurring now, that they've talked about. So then they go on to say, okay, where are we? That in the times coming, what will it be to belong to humanity? What will it be to be alive on this earth? What will be the life laid out before you? And we say, do not enshroud yourself against this. Do not fear what opportunities will lay. So this next section, they're really talking about how important it is to hold the feeling of loving presence, of like a joyful anticipation, like we are in part creating our reality. And so they're really referencing how important it is, how we feel about what's going on. They say, in acceptance of the change and its passing, you will find for yourself that all is as it was in some ways. So here, I think they're really trying to reassure us, because change, at its root, humanity fears change. So here they're trying to say that change won't be as bad as it won't be so much change that there's nothing that we recognize. There will still be some things that we recognize. There will still be some things that we can feel have been in continuation, right? Have been the same. So they say that all is as it was in some ways, that there will be fragments of life that are much undisturbed. It will feel as though life continues to a certain tune and song of memory, which is such an interesting description of it, that it is a certain tune of song and song of memory. So think about that when you hear a song that takes you back to a place, that it is as if you're experiencing it again, but it's not the same, right? That you're having a memory of something. You could even be in a place you've been before. Like imagine going back to the place you grew up. And it is, in a lot of ways, it's the same, but it's not the same, right? And it's kind of like that, trying to go back home. Like if I go back to the town that I grew up in, it has the same name and the same grocery store is there. And there's a lot of things about it that are the same, but it is not at all the same. Like the demographics of the area have changed dramatically, and it's fallen on really hard times. And like the grocery store is there, but there are now bars on the window, right? And it's a rough neighborhood now. And it didn't used to be. It used to be like a nice little town. And so it's like, I can go back and I'd be like, yeah, this is really familiar. And then it's not the same. So the fragments of life that are much undisturbed, it will feel as though life continues to a certain tune and song of memory, but then become aware that the capacity for the earth to continue as it was, that the capacity for life to expand as it has been is disjointed and does not continue. And I think that, and also an interesting phrase, that it is disjointed, that the capacity to expand is disjointed. So everything is energy, and energy moves right in a continuum, like a ripple, like a wave. Everything is wave, vibration. Like this is everything. Everything is, even like my phone is that even though it feels physical, feels like a physical thing, it is not, it is at the same, it is just an energy. It's a vibration. It's a density, right? That forms into one thought, one object. Everything is wave. So when they say that it is disjointed, imagine a wave that is disjointed. Like it's almost like trying to hear like a radio station when you're driving out like in the desert and you only get every other little blip of sound. Like you can kind of hear the song, but a bunch of pieces cut out. That's what it's like. Capacity of life to expand as it's been is disjointed and does not continue. And there will be beyond the borders of your own experience the potential for great undoing. And these create within them opportunities for uprising, disjointed efforting. So they're saying that as the world as a whole, so beyond, so in your own experience, you're going to see what is directly around you and you will see change, but you won't see everything where you are. So beyond the borders of your experience, there's a lot more change. And if you add all that change up together, you get massive transformation. But how does that break down? Well, each of us experiences some of it. If you add it all up, it's a lot. And that's kind of what they're describing here. There will be among and within humanity a great unraveling, but this happens in separateness here and there. There are pockets, there are places among this great earth that are as yet untouched by these experiences. And there are some places which are only knowing what is past based on what it has heard. So like, what if there's like a little town up, in the mountains somewhere that just doesn't have a lot of experience or a lot of interaction with the rest of the world? Well, for them, they may feel like, yeah, this is kind of like what it's always been, and they're just kind of doing their thing. But sure enough, there is massive change in the world. And so I think it's this interesting idea that, and certainly in some areas, if there is natural disasters, there will be certain areas that are transformed, beyond recognition. But for a lot of places, I think it'll be a thing where there's major change. Things look really, really different. But what is the ratio of same to different, right? Is it 50%? Is it 70%? We don't really know. But if like I said, if you add all that up, the cumulative change for the whole world, for everybody would be massive. There is a great movement of peoples. So they've talked about that there would be mass migration because there would be some places that become uninhabitable for various reasons. A great movement of peoples. We've seen that. They talked about this. They started talking about this several years ago. Great movement of mass migrations. And it's already happened. We've seen that happen in a couple places already because of natural disasters, flooding, stuff like that. They say there is the transfer of wealth between nations, the sharing of what is unearthed. So this is really different. So imagine that there's a big enough issue and there's currently, money going here and here, but it's mostly funding war. Like what if it's moving between one place to another to help, right? Where there has been massive flooding or massive catastrophe and there's money moving or resources moving to as aid. Transfer of wealth between nations, the sharing of what is unearthed. And so transfer of wealth can also mean, where countries that have been really affluent are not affluent any longer, right? And so some of that it transfers to another place, but some of it is also, they reference specifically sharing what is unearthed. So yeah, to me that says like sharing, is it based on, and they're kind of giving me that pause right there, that it might not be something that it is a thing where it might be more of where we don't do it, where the movement of resources or wealth or whatever it is happens not by human design, it just happens, right? That is a possibility of that sentence right there, where things are more equally, because they're saying the sharing of what is unearthed to me refers to natural resources. Yeah, interesting. There is the desire to maintain for the purpose of living and being among all peoples, a shifting of purpose and focus emerges. Powerful structures. Let's see. Yeah. Okay. And so I like to hear that they're referring to purpose. So I think this is like referring to the awakening as we start to understand that the goal is to help humanity as a whole, is how I read that. Powerful structures which emerged in these past decades find themselves uprooted and unable to continue. So they talked about this quite a bit, that the structures of the world have to change in order for us to have freedom, that we cannot be held in the same power structures. But then they say, but not all such instantiations are wounded. In other words, not like there's not going to be no corporations anymore, or structures of any kind. They say some find themselves truer in their purpose and more able to experience growth in the time unfurling. So this is referring to the idea, and they mentioned this in, there's a message that we got, and you can find it in the playlist that says, what will remain afterwards, or something like that. It's something like what will survive the shift, I think is and it's only maybe a month or two ago. So it's not that far down in the playlist. And in that message, they talk about structures and how like companies that prioritize the well-being of people, that are not about the profit of the individual, but are about the providing for the many. Those are the companies. It's almost like they hold a different energy. Those are the structures and the companies that will do well. That will work within the energies that are coming. And those that are really holding the energy of benefiting the few at the expense of the many, they just can't, it's like they can't hold a tune anymore. There's not the energy. Imagine that they have a sail that's shaped like a boat, that their sail is shaped to catch that particular wind. And that wind is sputtering out. It doesn't exist. And a new wind is coming, which is the energy of Aquarius, which is the energy of sharing and helping everyone. And those companies or those organizations that have their sails set to catch that wind, those are the ones that are going to start moving. So that's what they're saying here. Some find themselves truer to their purpose and more able to experience growth in this time of unfurling. Even that world unfurling is like the sail. So that's kind of cool. I just thought of that analogy. All right. Thus, the world takes new hold, a new capacity. So this is like a new hold. In other words, this is like as the new structures are formed, new hold, new capacity. Capacity is like what does it hold? So we need structures, but the structures have to be different. What holds us? What holds all of us into a society? We need structures that support this new energy. All right, moving on. They say there is in this time frame an expansion of horizons and borders beyond this world. This is exciting. So this is about becoming part of the community of the universe, like beyond Earth, right? What else is out there besides us, and connecting with other species? They say the expansion of travel, new ways of being aloft. So travel up into I see that as into space, and outlying reaches become closer. This expands yourselves exponentially. So connection with the other planetary beings, other species, expands us, right? It's incredibly helpful for us. They say there is a greater peace among nations, dissolving borders. There is the connection between peoples, and the enablement of this capacity opens the heavens to all races of beings, and there comes to yourselves great aid and guardianship. So in other words, they're saying that the first thing that has to happen is we have to stop fighting with each other, that war has to end. So there's greater peace among nations, dissolving borders. So once the world becomes a one place for all of humans, right? That we don't have fighting among ourselves, then we are ready to connect beyond our planet. And that is what they're saying. So there is a connection between peoples, and the enablement of this capacity opens the heavens, right, to all races of being. And then they say, once that happens, we connect with them, and there comes to yourselves great aid and guardianship. So this is a good thing. So that at that point, we are open to receiving help from them. In and amongst ourselves, who are angels, you become perceptive to us. So they've said this before, that people would see angels in the future, which is like super, super cool. You become sensitive to our presence. Not all will see us, but some will. Not all will conceive of our presence, but many shall have the experience. So it sounds like lots of us will at least be able, kind of like at the beginning, how I shared Susan's experience, like she felt them, right? And now that she's felt them in that way, she will be more attuned to when she feels them. But some people will straight out see them, which is super, super cool. So they say, and this endowment of grace shifts them purposefully into a direction of communal understanding that we are of this place and of yourselves. So when this happens for people, if they have this experience, they say it will be totally transformational, right? That they will they will have and it's purposeful. They say this is a purposeful thing. The people who experience it, that it will be life changing. They say, and there exists because it changes their perception. Imagine and like a person who's an atheist who sees an angel, like how mind blowing that would be for them, right? So yeah, or anybody who just has had a lot of doubt, who just doesn't feel it or just does questioning, then to see it with their own eyes or have an actual experience for themselves, it would be life changing. So there exists within the hearts of many a great pull to greater understanding. So in other words, so if that happens to people, they will be all of a sudden full of questions, right? They will have a great pull to greater understanding. They will be looking for any kind of explanation they can find, right? And you will find yourselves replete with the many who desire greater depth and greater tutelage. So in other words, if you are here with a desire to serve, to be of service, to be a light worker, to help others, this is your chance, right? There'll be all these people who are like, what just happened to me? And they will be looking for help. They will be looking for guidance, for people who have gone down the path already, who have had an experience of some sort of this, who may have some answers, or at least be able to share and understand and provide listening, to help them understand they're not crazy, right? Who are in need of service from yourselves, and the many who have come to be of service in this time, right? So it's a time for us to say, yep, to affirm, yep, what you experience is real and you're not crazy. And this is just the beginning and there's so much more to see and learn, right? That's the message. So, okay, they go on to say, these times you are undertaking have been waylaid, shortened, and the fulfillment of these experiences must be concentrated. So this is interesting. So this tells me that there have been some timings that have slipped, that there may have been things that they thought would have happened by now that didn't. So that's interesting. There is amongst us who are engaged in the design and fulfillment of your fruition, a commitment to the resolution of these earthly purges. So they're saying that all the angels who are involved in helping us through this, and they even say the design and fulfillment. So there's parts of this that we know that many of these things are pre-planned, that we pre-plan our lives before we come here. And it's not that everything is pre-planned, but there are certain moments, certain inflection points that we rehearse many, many times to make sure we stay on track. So I think that is what they're referring here in terms of tracking our own growth. There is amongst us who are engaged in the design and fulfillment of your fruition, a commitment to the resolution of these earthly purges. So they are going to help us see this through. It's going to happen one way or another. And the earthly purges is like, what is it? What are the energies that we need to get rid of on the planet, that we need to release, the heavy, heavy energies that lower our frequency? We are certain it will absorb humanity of many pressures of what has been difficult, hardship, suffering, where there has been the expansion of negativity and frustration. So these are some of the things that we will release. So they're saying this is a good thing, that we will be having less of those, less difficulty, hardship, suffering, right? Less negativity and frustration. And then this is interesting. And much dialogue has occurred between the darkness and the lost souls of your many races. So this is interesting. And when they say races, I don't know if they necessarily mean races as we think of them today, but it might mean over time. Like it's not just us in the last 2,000 years, right? It's humanity. Like, have there been many different times of humanity, right? We don't know a lot of our past history, right? So I have a little question mark on that word. And whatever it means is all good. Like, the whole point is unity. The point is being one. So maybe they they could be races of in terms of racial as we think of it today. It could be belief systems. It could be time periods of, races of humanity, like, the Atlanteans, the whatevers, as we go back, it could be that. But I think the main point, I think, is that it's unity for all humans ever. So much dialogue has occurred between darkness and the lost souls. And so that, I think, is saying that because of the heavy energies on the planet, when people have gotten lost in the past, it has opened them to negative energy. And this is something that will no longer happen, which is pretty exciting. They say, in the great purge, all that has been stolen from yourselves will be returned again. So this is like all the lost souls who have been stuck, right? Who have been lost from the light, right? Who've been, as we might say, captured by the darkness or whatever it is, that are stuck. They will be returned again. And they return to us, return to the collective, return to humanity, return to source light. And this we celebrate. So that's a big statement right there. Yeah. And that's why I focus on that term, is because I think it's meant to be just inclusive of everybody. Yeah. And in all time. So, which is of humanity, all time of humanity, which is super, super cool. We say that the aspects of life that are tumultuous, that you experience through the frustration of the orchestration. Oh, this is interesting. This is about how we create, how we learn to manifest differently. That what you experience through the frustration of the orchestration of what you desire, a great shifting occurs that is positive. So we currently get frustrated when we're trying to orchestrate our desires, right? They're saying a great shifting occurs. You find yourselves, this is so interesting, you find yourselves in a liquefied realm of objects where all things are transmutable. And that which has been difficult is moldable by you. So we experience reality differently. This is that people talk about instant manifestation, where things become, it is much easier for us to manifest in our reality, that it is liquefied almost, is how they describe it, right? That literally energy is, because we are at a higher frequency, it is less dense, things move easier, faster. It makes sense. And we are all experiencing this in some ways. I know a lot of you, we've been talking about it in the last several weeks about how quickly random things will manifest. And it seems like it's anything that we don't have block to, anything that we don't have resistance to receiving. So those things come through very, very quickly right now, which is so interesting. All right. Liquefied. I love it. Where things are transmutable, which has been difficult, is moldable. So transmutable, it's changeable. That if we don't like how things are, if we're learning about ourselves, our energies, our difficult feelings are transmutable, right? That we can grow through our experience much more easily. So, wow, right? Super, super, super cool. There is the formation of reality, which is what we do. Reality comes from our perception. The formation of reality, which is an undertaking you can handle differently. The formation of life stems from you, unguarded, and you find your heart the directive. So this is the difference. What is different is that in the moment, our heart is guarded. At the moment, we don't trust. At the moment, we have all these woundings where we feel, whatever it is that our particular wounding is, we feel unworthy. We feel not good enough. We feel distrustful. We're worried that we're not safe. We feel like others are against us. Whatever it is, we feel like we're, hardship is what life is hard. Whatever it is our belief system is, that closes the heart, right? It blocks us from receiving. And they're saying that in the future, the formation of life stems from you unguarded, without all those thoughts, without all those that negativity. And you find your heart the directive. The heart is open. So we're creating directly from the heart, which that by itself would change the world massively, like complete transformation. And I think that is the root of it, is what we're doing. And it does change the world completely. They said it becomes a time of greater folly and fruition. And I like that they use the word folly, because they're saying this doesn't, like, having fun is good. Having folly, having joy, having goofing around, having a good time. Life is meant to be happy. Life is meant to be joyful. So they're saying this is where we're headed. It becomes a time of greater folly, right? And fruition. So it's like we can achieve more, we can attain more, we can be happier, we can take ourselves less seriously, right? More fun for the having, greater ease in life. I think that it's a thing that, like, whenever they draw angels, they're always like playing music, and you never see angels like doing taxes. Like, it's not like, they're not heavy. They're happy. They're light. We're meant to be that, right? Create a greater capacity for joy, a release of beliefs that have been durable and limiting. So, like, yes, please. That sounds amazing. It is a time and space in which you feel yourselves delivered from a realm of misunderstanding, misconstrued action, and underdeveloped senses. And in the new space of friendship between humans and all peoples, you become that self you envisioned before coming. You become that self who rises to an experience of life that feels like ease and purpose married in one expression. I love that, right? Ease and purpose married in one expression. In other words, purpose becomes easy. Right? That it is not a thing you have to struggle and fight and push the boulder uphill over and over and over again. It becomes ease and purpose are the same, which is so cool. You become that self who rises to the tide of need. Ooh, this part is so beautiful, you guys. I want to slow down and read it. So you become that self who rises to the tide of need, who dances in the expression of their own beliefs, who stands ashore in the waves of spirit, and holds within them the light of the divine. So how beautiful is that? Becomes that self who rises to the tide of need. So to me, that says lives in the present moment, rises to the tide. Like think about like the waves coming in and you receive it and you see what needs to be done and you do it. It's not a thing where you're fearing what wave is going to come. You rise to the tide as it happens. We live in the present, who dances in the expression of their own beliefs. And that is dancing is like freedom, right? Free to express yourself exactly as you are dancing, right? That is just like this being totally open and in the expression of your own truth, right? Who stands ashore in the waves of spirit. This means you're grounded and connected to the divine, ashore in the waves of spirit. So you're grounded to the earth, connected to the divine, and hold within them the light of the divine, that you have fully embodied your truth, right? Super cool. We speak to this now in reassurance, in understanding that the dialogue we are having cannot supplant the fear. So I love that they know us, right? They know that we are still in a human body. We still are afraid what's going to happen to us. But we don't want to go through pain and suffering. It doesn't sound fun. We don't want that. And they say, we have the knowing that to be human is to feel decomposed at the prospect of enormous change and fragmentation. Very true. But we say, and that is true, like, what do we fear most? Change. But we say to trust in self and other, to trust in humanity, in what is your purpose, that we like, and by that, they're like, trust that we are moving, we're growing, that we can grow, and that we're moving to something that is better inside of us, that this is possible. And that is a big statement, because the past and what humanity has done is not necessarily inspiring a lot of that trust. But I think that if you look at humanity as a whole, and you look at how brutal people were, 400 years ago, 500 years ago, people were brutal to one another. And now we have a much higher standard for cruelty, that we don't believe in cruelty as a society anymore. And we did back then, like cruelty was common, like put a head on a spike and teach people a lesson, like that was the way humans were. And we're not that anymore. So we have grown. But we have a lot more growing to do. But they say trust in humanity, that we are moving forward in what is your purpose, in what you have felt, in what you have known, and to be aware that though you have felt the great ripples of these experiences building around yourselves, though you have known the torment of many peoples occurring even as we speak. So they say that they know that we feel these events coming, that we have the uneasiness. It's almost like the way that birds take off before an earthquake comes. Like we have the uneasiness that there's more on the horizon, that it's a difficult time that we're in and moving through even more difficult times. They say that it is happening even as we're speaking, that you are yet held in a pose of relaxation and enjoyment. So they're bringing our attention to the fact that right at this moment, you are watching YouTube, that you are in a space of relaxation and enjoyment, that you are in a space of calm, and that even in difficult times, which we are in right now, there is still relaxation and enjoyment, that we can have both. And I used to think about this back when I got divorced, it was a really, really difficult time, and I was really sad. And at the same time, like I was out in the world. I was freer in some ways than I had been in a lot of time. I was learning a lot about myself. And I was like, it was weird, because I used to think that happy and sad were opposites. I used to think that you would be either happy or sad. And through that process of divorce, I finally came to understand that it's like two separate dials. You have the happy dial, and then you also have the sad dial. And you can be happy and sad at the same time. And that blew my mind, but it was so true. I was super sad about the loss of the family that I had and all that kind of stuff, that, to not be a family unit anymore, and sad about all the bad things that had happened. And at the same time, I was super happy about the new ways that I was growing. So I think that is what this is going to be like, is that it is going to be the happy dial and the sad dial will be activated at the same time, that we will be at times in places of relaxation and enjoyment, and also deeply sad about what's going on in the world and potentially around us. So I think that's what they're speaking to, that you are yet held in a pose of relaxation and enjoyment, even as difficulty is occurring. So through this process and undertaking to lift humanity from its depths of confusion to the lofty precipice of its evolution, we must have suffering. And for this, we are sorry. Through this process, our guardianship is promised. Your safety in our compassion is held as a trusted contract. So what I see here, what they're saying is that the suffering is part of what molds humanity, that we go through suffering. And this is part of, like, yes, we will have this flash of light. We will have energies that come to the planet that shift us. But part of what shifts the multitudes, that shifts the masses of humanity, is the suffering. And so the suffering plays a role, that it pushes people toward us, right? Toward each other. It pushes us toward one another. It brings us into unity. Right. And so that is, I think, what they're saying, and why it is important. We must have suffering, they're saying, in order to get from this massive shift from the depths of confusion to the lofty precipice of its evolution. So this is a massive shift we're trying to make. And they say we can't do it without suffering. And part of that is also because the whole point of it is change. And they just said that change is what we fear. And change makes us suffer. And the very thing we are trying to do is change. So we will suffer because we are changing, even though that change is great. So is a good change. Yeah. So yeah. And they say, here they say, through this process, our guardianship is promised. So they are looking over humanity. And they say, your safety and our compassion is held as a trusted contract. The angels have said that no soul will be lost in this experience, that the angels are working overtime to guide every single soul through this process. And we all have a different path. Some people will leave the planet and some won't. And there will be, like they said, there will be suffering, but they will be guiding us and guarding us through that process. And looking out for our highest and best for each and every one of us, making sure that the process we experience, what we go through, will be specifically helpful to our higher purpose. And will be what we agreed to when we came. So they said, your safety and our compassion is held as a trusted contract. They will be looking out for us. And every single soul, they've said, who passes will be guided and guarded on their way through transition. No one will be lost. They go on to say, we provide for yourselves a suggestion in the, this is big with part right here. They say, we provide for yourselves a suggestion in the conveyance of your wishes for what shall occur. So how should we speak about what we wish for in the future? They're giving us a suggestion, how we can speak about it. We speak to this most poignantly. So they're saying this is important, to speak to yourself often and only of the desire for the evolution of humanity. To speak to yourself only and often of the sense of yourself as part of this great change. To speak to yourself only and often that you will be living in a time of great love and prosperity. And this is all. And to wish for nothing more. So, like, that's right there. They say to think about that we desire the evolution of humanity, that we are part of this change, and we will be living in a time of great love and prosperity. And to hold that as our mantra, right? To hold that as, this is where we are, this is what we're doing, right? That we want the evolution of humanity, that we are part of it. We came here on purpose, we're part of it, and we will be living in a time of great love and prosperity. Boom, right? They go on to say, for what is to be expected cannot conform to your knowing, and your concern bedevils all you create. So once we go outside of that and we start getting specific about what we want, then they say that our concern, our fear gets mixed in with it. We have a lot of fear of change, and we start mixing in like, oh, I want to make sure I don't lose my 401k or whatever it is, right? I want to make sure that my dog is all right, or whatever it is that we fear with things that place, my children, I want to worry, we worry. And every time we make those wishes, we lace in our fear, that those concerns stem from fear. And so they're saying, don't think about those things. Just put your faith and trust and do the mantra, right? I wish for the desire. I desire the evolution. I am part of the great change, and I will be living in a time of great love and prosperity, right? And that kind of covers it. Like, if you think I will be living in a time of great love and prosperity, that's a blanket right there that covers it all. So we don't have to call out the specifics of the things we're worried about. We can say, okay, that one sentence covers everything, and I can just let it go and live in the moment and rise to the tide, as they say, right? So, and they say that for what is to be expected cannot conform to your knowing. So we can't understand it just yet, what's coming. And your concern bedevils all you create. So where we put our concern, we mess things up for ourselves, because we project that reality for ourselves. They say, thus stand confronted with reality and receive what is. So stand in the tide, right? And be of the perspective that you live in grace, and graceful opportunity, right? So you just hold that thought that you live in grace, that you're living a blessed life and you live in graceful opportunity. So the ease will come to you, that things, that opportunity will be graceful, will be easy. And they say, and see in all things the blessings for your race, your peoples, yourself, your family. See the blessings in all things arriving. Yeah, right? Yes, yes, please. Like so many beautiful things in this message, so many beautiful things. So I had to share it with you guys. All right, you guys, sending you lots of love. And I'll be excited to be next Friday Live will be from home again. Have a great weekend, and I'll see you next Friday Live.